I walked into Harrison and Company on my first day with a mix of nerves and excitement. At 24, landing a job in such a respected firm felt like I had stepped into a world far above my league. The glass building towered over the city, sleek and intimidating, and I couldn't stop my heart from racing. Richard Harrison, my new boss, greeted me with a firm handshake. He was everything I expected: powerful, composed, and intimidating in a way that made me want to prove myself worthy of his approval. That evening at the company dinner, I met her. Isabella, Richard's wife. She arrived late, her presence instantly commanding attention. Her silk dress shimmered under the lights, her dark hair cascading down her shoulders, her smile lighting up the room. When Richard introduced her to me, I reached for her hand, and something lingered in that moment. Her touch was soft, her eyes held mine, and for a second too long, we simply looked at each other. The spark was undeniable, even though I tried to dismiss it. In the weeks that followed, our paths crossed more often than I expected. She came to the office sometimes to bring Richard lunch, or I'd see her at events. Every time, I felt that same pull, stronger than before. She'd glance at me from across the room, her smile quick and knowing. Once, she brushed past me in the hallway, her perfume wrapping around me like a spell I couldn't escape. Another time, she placed her hand on my arm as she laughed at something I said, her touch lingering just long enough to make my skin burn. I told myself it was harmless. I told myself I wouldn't cross that line. But late one evening, when the office was empty and I was buried in work, I heard the elevator. When I looked up, she was there. Isabella walked in holding a small bag. She smiled when she saw me. I thought Richard would still be here. I brought him dinner. He left already, I said, my voice tight, my pulse quickening. She sighed, shaking her head. Of course he did. She set the bag on his desk and came over to mine. We talked about books, music, even silly little things. She was easy to talk to, warm, and I found myself laughing with her, forgetting where we were. When she leaned over my laptop to look at something, her hand brushed mine. Neither of us moved. My heart pounded as she looked up at me, her face so close I could feel her breath. I wanted to kiss her. I almost did. But she smiled faintly, pulled back and whispered, "Good night, Ethan," before leaving me sitting there, trembling with the weight of what almost happened. When Richard left on a business trip 2 weeks later, my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. Asterisk, I hope you don't mind me texting. Maybe you'd like some company tonight. Asterisk, it was Isabella. I knew I should ignore it. I knew I should delete it. Instead, I found myself standing at her front door that night, my stomach twisting in knots. The house was beautiful, quiet, too big for just her. She poured us wine, her silk robe tied loosely at her waist. We sat close, our knees brushing under the table. She spoke softly, her eyes filled with something I couldn't look away from. I get lonely when Richard's gone. Sometimes I just need someone who listens. When she slid her hand over mine, the last of my restraint crumbled. I leaned in, and she met me halfway. Her lips were soft, hungry, tasting of wine and danger. That kiss deepened until we were tangled in each other, her body pressed against mine as if we had been waiting for that moment our whole lives. That night, we crossed the line, and I knew there was no turning back. From then on, we couldn't stop. The passion consumed us. We met in hotel rooms under fake names, our bodies desperate for each other the moment the door closed. She came to the office under the pretense of bringing Richard something, but slipped into my office to steal kisses when no one was looking. I went to the mansion when Richard traveled, every nerve on edge, but unable to resist her. Every touch, every whispered word, was fire. We were reckless, and I knew it. I told myself it was wrong, that I was betraying a man who trusted me, but Isabella made me feel alive in a way I had never known. It couldn't last forever. Richard began noticing things. He stared at me differently in meetings, as if he couldn't quite place a suspicion that hovered just beyond reach. Isabella grew distracted at dinners, and his voice when he spoke to her turned sharp. One night, after a company event, he cornered me. You've been spending a lot of time around my wife. I swallowed hard, forcing a smile. She's very kind. She makes people feel welcome. He studied me for a long moment before giving a smile that felt more like a warning. Be careful, Ethan. Ambition can make men do foolish things. I heard the threat loud and clear. I knew I should end it, but the next night, I was in Isabella's arms again. It wasn't just lust anymore. I had fallen in love with her. One night, as we lay together tangled in her sheets, I whispered, I don't want this to end. She turned toward me, her eyes shimmering. Richard doesn't see me anymore. I'm just part of his image, a trophy on his arm. But with you, Ethan, I feel real. I feel alive. Her confession broke me. I told her I loved her, and she whispered it back. From that moment, it wasn't just an affair, it was something deeper, something dangerous. We almost got caught one night when Richard came home from a trip earlier than expected. Isabella and I were in the living room when we heard the garage door. Panic surged. She shoved me toward the back door, whispering urgently, and I barely escaped before Richard walked in. I watched from the shadows as she wrapped her arms around him, her face calm though I knew her heart had to be racing. The close call left me shaking, but it didn't stop me. If anything, it made me need her more. She began talking about leaving him. I can't keep doing this, she said. I want to be free. I want to be with you. I wanted that too, but I knew the risks. Richard wasn't just powerful, he was dangerous. He controlled everything around him, and I wasn't sure either of us could escape that control without consequence. Yet the thought of giving her up felt impossible. Jealousy ate at me every time I saw her by his side in public, smiling the perfect wife smile. At night she was mine, but during the day, she belonged to him, and the conflict burned inside me. Eventually, it all unraveled. Secrets never stay hidden forever. One evening, Richard walked into the office unannounced. Isabella was there, her hand brushing mine, her smile too intimate, too tender. Richard froze. His face hardened as he looked from her to me, and in that instant, I knew it was over. He didn't yell. He didn't create a scene. His calm was worse. He looked at Isabella, then at me, and his voice was cold. You'll regret this. He fired me on the spot. My career, my reputation, everything I had worked for vanished in an instant. Isabella begged me not to leave her, tears streaming down her face, but I had no future left. Richard's shadow loomed too large. I couldn't see a way forward for us. We said goodbye in tears, her lips trembling against mine for the last time. Walking away from her broke me, but staying would have destroyed me completely. Even now, I can't forget her. Her touch lingers like a scar, her kiss burns in my memory. Some betrayals ruin lives. Others carve themselves into your soul forever. Ours did both.